Hello, Erin, Campagna. How are you doing?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be sitting here with you today. What brings us together?
Yeah, we are talking about my second book, This Time Will Be Different, which is being published in January 2025.
So soon.
Yes.
So exciting.
Soon. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm curious, how did you choose the title This Time Will Be Different?
Yeah, I came up with This Time Will Be Different because this book is a collection of nonfiction short stories really revolving around what it means to be in your early to mid 20s. And we've talked about this time period as feeling like we're in the trenches, we're on a roller coaster, we don't know what's coming around the corner. There are a lot of upheavals and changes constantly in our lives. And I feel like all of us are continuing to press forward and hoping for that positive outcome, kind of along the veins of trying and trying and trying again, and hoping that something will be different, whether in our professional lives, our personal lives, in our romantic relationships, in our friendships, and just continuing to press on in hope for things to continue to be better.
Love the title. I think it really captures the sentiment of your mission here, and I feel lucky enough to have read some of the pieces already. I'm so excited for others to read it.
Me too.
What do you hope readers take away from this book?
I hope readers feel a little bit less alone. I think the things that I'm talking about can feel very private and very personal, and a lot of things that people may feel like they need to keep to themselves. And I'm hoping that after reading this, people feel seen and heard, validated, a little bit less alone, and that even though we are all, especially we've seen like all of our friends after graduating college are doing completely different things, and it can feel like we're now all on different tracks, but the feelings and the emotions are the same. And so even while we're all doing our own thing in our own corner of the world, we really are all in this together. And even if we may not talk about how nervous or lonely we feel, you know, we talk about how social media is a highlight reel and it can feel like everyone else is doing amazing and we're not doing well. I think we all have those days where it just feels like nothing is going our way and we're lost and we're confused and we don't know what to do. And I'm hoping that this book is reassurance, validation, kind of a guiding light of that things are going to get better, and we just have to keep trying and keep doing our best.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's definitely what I got out of the book. I felt less alone. I know we've gone through somewhat similar things, but also very different things, but we're both in that same chapter of life. I know some of the stories, to your point, make me feel less alone, but also encourage me to feel some of those darker feelings that sometimes can be scary. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about your intention behind that, or what you hope readers take away from, you know, maybe some of those more surprising stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the stories in here are very dark. And if you think about this, I wouldn't say that this is a companion to my first book, but I definitely expand upon some of those events that happened in college that are still following me to this day. And sometimes I surprise myself with how dark my thoughts can be around death, around grief, around loss, and they can feel kind of taboo to bring up in a setting outside of therapy with a professional. But sometimes I was like, this is what I went through. These are my honest thoughts about death and grief and loss. And if they help even just one other person feel less alone in their mourning process, then that will absolutely be worth it, because it's really terrifying to put these thoughts out there. You know, I worry, what will people say? What will people think? Will they think that there's something wrong with me? I promise I'm very much in therapy, but I think writing for me is a form of catharsis and getting some of these emotions up that seem to just eat me up inside and really keep me up at night and keep me and kind of just keep me on edge. And I think a lot of people feel this regardless of whether you've gone through, you know, a traumatic death in family or friends. You know, a lot of these emotions can apply to a variety of different situations.
You can kind of apply a lot of the lessons. I can feel you learning. I feel like I'm learning them with you, and I can think of something I've gone through that pulls on that same thread of humanity that we're all attached to. As someone who also enjoys writing and has written about some darker things as well, something I've realized is I couldn't necessarily put it out there for others to read or even write it out myself had I not been in a better place than when I was going through it. So I think it's a testament to your strength to now be able to share some of this stuff. And I think, speaking for myself, and hopefully you can relate to this, you wouldn't be able to share this had you not kind of already clung on to some sort of hope. Things were getting brighter. Now you're kind of sharing how you felt in those darker moments. Is there anything you can share with people that might be going through one of those tougher seasons of life, in terms of expressing those feelings, how for you it's writing a book, that's not for everyone, obviously. Yes, you're a special case. Would it have expressing those emotions however someone might see fit? How has that helped you or impacted your life?
I think so with this book and how it is structured, it is really nice to be able to look back and be like, oh, in this point in my time, I was experiencing this. And wow, this is a really, really dark, depressing story. And now 6 months later, I'm revisiting the same topic and I now have a different perspective. Or honestly, I still feel the same way. And that's fine. It's nice to be able to have both. I think just don't let the present invalidate how you felt in the past. You know, when I first reread my first book, I was honestly a little embarrassed. I was like, oh, this is so cringy. This is so college.
I loved it. Everyone, and So We Exist is her first book. I'm, of course, biased towards this one, but it's amazing.
Thank you. But the first time I reread it, I felt a little bit like, oh, this is so college. This is so cringy. But it is truthful to what I was feeling at the time. In 3 years, I may feel the exact same about this time. Will be definitely like, oh my God, I was being so melodramatic when I was in my early 20s.
But it's honest.
But it's honest. And this is what I'm going through. And this is the way that I know how to be accurate. Like, I'm not a big journaler. I don't keep a journal every single day like many writers do. This is my time capsule in a way of being able to look back and be like, oh yes, I was going through this. I was dealing with this. I was friends with this person. I was dating this person. This is what was going on in my family.
Which we all go through similar things.
We all go through it. And everyone has their individual way of marking the time and being able to look back and see, oh, this is how I've changed. This is how I've grown up. These are the mistakes that I've made. This is how I move forward. I think, you know, grace and patience with yourself are just as important as accountability. You know, we all need to take accountability for our mistakes, our actions, but it's also really important to understand that we are still very much growing and learning and figuring things out kind of on our own at this point.
I love that, because some of my favorite works of literature and even other pieces of art give me a different feeling or learning every time I revisit them. And I already can tell, if I would have read this 3 years ago, I would have thought something completely different when we were in college and going through all these different things than I would now. And I know in 3 or 5 years from now, I'll get something else out of it. So I'm really glad you shared that. All that being said, I'm curious, who is this book for? Who's the audience that you're writing to?
I think I don't like creating specific categories or archetypes of people that this book is only for you. I think in a broad sense, this book is for people who are struggling with coming to terms with who they are outside of college, being in the real world. I think this book is for people who are dealing with loss and change, loss of community, loss of friend groups, loss of stability as people move on and take different paths in their 20s. I think this is for people who really value connection and finding people who make them feel like the most genuine, authentic versions of themselves. I think this is for people who try and try and try again and are looking for hobbies and activities and things to do that bring them joy and are struggling to find that. I think this is for a lot of people who struggle to move on and let things go. Because I know I have a really, really hard time getting over things. I think I'm probably overly emotional and overly sentimental, and I really have a hard time moving on from the past. And sometimes I feel like the past has its grips in me and I'll never be free and I'll always be haunted by certain things. And I'm learning now that that's not the worst thing in the world.
Lessons.
There's a healthy balance between being able to let go and also being able to move on. But I think that there's a lot. I hope that people get a lot out of this in terms of. I think it's coming of age, but in a more adult sense than maybe some coming of age books and media and movies that we usually engage with.
Yep, I completely agree. I think you nailed it. I got a lot of what you just explained out of my first couple times reading it. I'm super lucky I get to read it before everyone else. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Again, everyone, this is This Time Will Be Different by Erin Campagna, published by MC² Press, coming out January 2025. Get your hands on it while you can. I'm so excited for everyone to read this. And it's been such a pleasure working with you. This has been such a fun journey, and we're just getting started.
Yes, we are.